Welcome to Brampton Focus. In 2016, gender equality and politics are two topics that are top of form. Two organizations, Women in Politics Peel and Equal Voice, address women in politics. My name is Michael A. Charbon. Next, we're going to meet Bonnie Crombie, the Mayor of Mississauga, and Rowena Santos, all about women in politics in Peel and Equal Voice, right here on Brampton Focus. And welcome back to Brampton Focus. Our topic today, equal voice, more women in politics. And who better to talk to when you're talking about women in politics than Madam Mayor Bonnie Crombie, the Mayor of Mississauga. Madam Mayor, thank you very much for joining us on Brampton Focus. Equal Voice is an effort that wants to motivate and encourage more women in politics to enter in the political ranks. As you know, Mississauga, out of 11 councillors, only 5 are women. Brampton, 10 councillors, only 2 are women. I wanted to get your thoughts, Madam Mayor, on what you think about women in politics and equal voice.
Well, it's an organization that has made a real impact in society. I can speak for Mississauga and all of Peel when I say that we really need more smart, strong-willed, and successful women in politics, just to add to the public policy discourse. There's a change of policy direction when there are more women in politics. Women look at economic issues that affect children, families, healthcare, education, and those are our economic issues. Those are the ones that drive our economy. So it's very important that we have more women in politics. And when you look at Peel region, the mayors of Brampton, Mississauga are women, of course. Last time, all 3 mayors, Caledon mayor had been a woman in the last council as well. I, of course, have 5 councillors. Almost half our council are women. My city manager is a woman. My city solicitor is a woman. My city clerk is a woman. My number 2 in planning is a woman. We have women in very senior levels at the city of Mississauga, which have made real impact on our organization and our policy levels. But when you look across Peel, look at the impact that women have made. The CEO of the Peel United Way is Shelley White, of course, a woman. The person who runs our hospital network in Mississauga is Michelle DeManuel, also a woman. And our chief of police, Jennifer Evans, is also a woman. So you can see the kind of impact that women have had. From my perspective here in Mississauga, I think Hazel McCallion, a very strong-willed woman, really created a sense of meritocracy here at the city, and it allowed women to step up and to flourish, and knew that our achievements, our accomplishments would be valued in the same way that a man's would, or that we were all on an equal footing. And that has made a real difference. Mayor
Crombie, you've been a Liberal member of Parliament. You're a wife. You've got kids. Now you're the mayor of probably one of the large top 10 cities in Canada. How difficult is it to juggle some of the traditional responsibilities that a mother and a wife has with a professional business like being a mayor of a large city?
Well, interesting question. I think your question is one of work-life balance, and that's always a challenge. I like to say that you can have it all, but maybe not all at the same time. Of course, I was very fortunate that when I entered politics after 20 years in business, my children were a little bit older and able to fend for themselves and very independent. But it is a tough challenge. You can see the example that certainly Minister Catherine McKenna has made, where she put her home life work balance ahead of her role as a minister, and has taken that time off at the end of the day between 5 and 7 p.m., goes home, has dinner with her family, helps with the homework, then goes back to her ministerial responsibilities. You can see that the changes the provincial government has made as well, having question period in the mornings rather than the afternoons, also to ease that work-life balance. So it can be done, but it has been a genuine struggle for a lot of women at the senior levels in the C-suites and business, and also for women in politics as well.
Great answer. What would you give from an advice standpoint to a young woman aspiring to get into politics now?
Oh, to follow your passions, to follow your dreams. I think you have to know what you want to bring to politics. I think you need to have a passion and a mission in life. Know what you want to accomplish. You have to be able to answer the question, vote for me because. And there better be a compelling story around your rationale. I mean, you have to have a very compelling story. You'd have to go to the door and convince people to cast their ballot for you. So you better be able to tell them exactly why you're running, what you want to accomplish, and what you bring to the table. What's that skill set you bring to the table? I'm a healthcare expert. I'd like to change the healthcare policy in our province, or I understand planning. I don't like the way City Council has been planning in certain areas. I'm going to run to protect my community from different developments. Or at the federal level, I would like to change the immigration policy. I'm an immigration lawyer. Have a real compelling story. Have a mission. Know what you want to accomplish, and know those skills that you bring to the table, because you'll have to be able to answer that question, vote for me because, very succinctly.
Good advice from a lady who is experienced. So this is your first term in office. How are things going in Mississauga, taking over from Hurricane Hazel McCallion?
Well, what are you hearing, Michael? I think things have been very successful. We have a council that collaborates very well together. It has been a very smooth transition. I don't think there have been any hiccups. We've hit the ground running. We've worked together as a united front. We've implemented a lot of changes and a lot of progress here at Mississauga. But the one thing I'll say is my style is a little bit different than my beloved predecessors. I'm very collaborative. I ask people what their personal agendas are and how I can help them accomplish them. We work together as a team. We consult each other. And I know going in where the votes are. So I think it's been a very successful year. We've had a lot of home runs. We made a decision that was right for us, which was to advocate for the light rail transit in Mississauga, which will be a real game changer for us. It'll be transformational. Our next objective is all-day two-way GO train service on the Milton line through the campaign called The Missing Link, where we are all in that together. There's a real sense of being united as one front on our council, and that just distinguishes us from other councils elsewhere, not to point to any particular council, but I think it's been a very successful year, and we've accomplished a lot. Even on the economic development front, we've been successful in bringing in some very key foreign direct investments. So it's been a great year. I hope it will continue.
Well, congratulations so far. So just to put a bow on this, we're talking about equal voice. We're talking about potentially establishing an equal voice to get more women involved in politics. What are your thoughts on this, and what kind of encouraging things do you think you could say to encourage women to be involved in equal voice and more politics in the region of Peel?
You know, I'm very familiar with Equal Voice and the work they did when I was a member of Parliament in Ottawa, and they actively held training sessions for new candidates, and I commend them for that work. The work they can do here in Peel, of course, is to inform, to educate, and to empower women here in the Peel region, and of course to answer all those questions about how you run for office and what level of government you should consider running for office for, and continuing to advocate for more women in the political process.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor Bonnie Crombie, the Mayor of Mississauga. I know your time is very valuable, and we appreciate you spending a little bit of your time with us here at Brampton Focus. You know, equal voice and talking about women in politics is what the topic is. Coming up next, we've got women in Peel politics, and Rowena Santos is going to come and sit down with us, and we're going to talk about encouraging more ladies to be involved in politics. My name is Michael Charbon. You're watching Brampton Focus. Stay tuned. Lots more right after this. Welcome back to Brampton Focus. Our topic today is all about women in politics. You know, our population in Canada is 35 million, and in 2012 they said 17.2 million were women. Interesting, that's almost 284,400 more women than men. And it breaks down that 58% speak English, 23% speak French, and 20% are of other languages. So that speaks to our topic, which is all about equal voice, equal opportunity, and women in politics. So as we continue this topic, we brought two excellent guests on to talk a little bit more about women in politics, and particularly in Peel. Beside me is Miss Rowena Santos. Rowena works for the New Democratic Party in Queen's Park, and she specifically works with Madam Horwath, Andrea Horwath. And beside Rowena is a man Gill. A man works in the office as one of the executive assistants to Bonnie Crombie. So 2 ladies in politics already here. Thank you so much for joining us here at Brampton Focus. You know, when we talk about the topic of bringing women into politics, some people would say, is it because you're just a woman that you should be in politics? Are we not embarrassed to say just because you're a lady you should be in politics? That's not really the focus, is it, Rowena?
No, it's not. And thanks, Michael, and thanks to Brampton Focus for having us here today. And thanks to all the viewers at home for watching on this important topic. It is not just about women running and for the sake of being a woman in politics. The statistics show that 50% of the population across the country is women. I think that we have now shifted into a discussion about who do we want to see reflected in our political representation, in our democracy. I think it is healthy to make sure that the people who are elected actually reflect the population in our country. So when we talk about that, then it's an important question to ask about merit. And what is merit, given it's 2016?
Yeah.
If we're talking about merit in terms of professional experience and education, etc., then that's one thing. But it's also another thing to talk about merit in terms of the experiences and the perspectives that you bring to the table.
But the most important thing, I believe, is to say that the best person for the job, be it male or female, is a person that you should elect. What we're trying to say here is that there should be more women stepping forward and saying that I would like to put myself forward, right? I mean, man, you work in the office of Bonnie Crombie. You're a skilled person who works in politics. Are we not saying that there should be more women taking that opportunity and saying, I can do this as well?
I think that's exactly it. Women don't really see politics as a field that they should get involved in. It's always been seen as an old boys club, right?
Yeah.
And I think the point here is to encourage women, amazing, experienced, diverse women, to get involved and have them know that, you know, they can represent the population just as well as men can.
So, Rowena, there's always barriers. We can say that the traditional family lexicon, you have the mother who takes care of family. Now we have a 2-person working family. The man and the woman share many of the same situations, but still from a mothering standpoint, it seems that the woman still has a little bit more of a burden as far as the family is upon her. Now there are certain political movements and organizations and councils that are making more amends to accommodate women to say, yes, we want more women involved. What kind of other barriers do you see of women becoming involved in politics?
I mean, barriers will always exist. It's been 100 years, actually. 2016 marks 100 years since a woman was even allowed to vote in this country, which is very, you know, we've seen a lot of progress, but there are definitely still a lot of barriers that exist. For example, let's be honest here, women are far more criticized by the media depending on what their hair looks like, whether or not they have makeup on, what their clothes look like.
Well, the TV guy, there was a male host who wore the same jacket or the same suit, I think it was for almost 10 years, and they looked at how much more the audience was critical on women having to have dress. So yes, appearance is a huge barrier, which isn't fair. That's not what it's about.
No, and you know, part of that too is that when women were able to vote in 100 years ago, before that, rules were actually made by men. The rules to play politics were made by men. And so the rules themselves...
It was an old boys club.
That's right, that's right. And so when we're talking about appearance and how media responds to that, but also in terms of the rough and tumble nature of politics.
So, Aman, let's talk about rough and tumble. With about 2 minutes left, are there some issues that you think should be brought forward that maybe men are not as akin to, that you think women can help? Are there some issues with regards to bring it to the fore of politics?
I think women in general think differently. They govern differently. I think they focus on different policy. We have reproductive rights. We have women's rights. That's not to say that they aren't, you know, everybody. Well, women's rights are sort of they're everybody's business, right?
Well, domestic violence is a whole bunch of things.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I just think women are able to better talk to these issues than men are. I mean, why are men talking to abortion rights, right? What a woman chooses to do with her body is up to her.
Right. Well, that's a perfect example. I mean, and I think women also have a domestic violence. There's workplace situations. All those things came to the forefront because women brought those issues forward.
Yep. I think on that note, I think Catherine McKenna has done a wonderful job. She has made it a point to, you know, turn off her email, her BlackBerry every day from, I think it was 5 to 7. To stay with her family. And I think that's opening a lot of doors for women to do the same in politics and just opening doors in general for women to get involved.
So with just about a minute left, and after you, Amanda, we're going to bring on Laura Robinson, but I want to just on a personal note, how cool is it to work for Bonnie Crombie in Bonnie's office? I mean, she's such a wonderful mayor. Now, how cool is that?
She's wonderful. She's super, super hardworking.
Yeah.
She's an inspiration to women in general wanting to get involved in politics. So it's wonderful.
Well, you think about Hurricane Hazel. I mean, I did her very last interview before she stepped down. And you think about here in Brampton, Linda Jeffries, Bonnie Crombie. I mean, there's a huge legacy in Peel for very successful and hardworking women in politics. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity. Thank you to Amanda Gill for coming in. We appreciate you. Stay tuned with us. Rowena's going to stay on. We have one more segment. We're talking about women in politics. You're watching Brampton Focus. My name is Michael A. Charbon. Stay with us. We'll be back with lots more right after this. Welcome back to Brampton Focus, our final segment. Two lovely ladies with us. Rowena Santos is with us. She's one of the executive assistants involved in politics in our provincial parliament and works for Andrea Horwath. And we're also joined by Laura Robinson. Ms. Robinson is a 3D tech company operations manager and also part of Women in Politics in Peel. When we left, Rowena, you were talking about the rough and tumble style of politics while we were in commercial break. You were telling me some stuff which was quite interesting. And from a male's perspective, they're very valid points, so I want you to just share with our folks a little bit. Politics can get a little rough, and there is a separation between the boys and the women, and there is a bit of a barrier.
Absolutely. So this is one of the barriers for women, is the whole rough and tumble nature, perceived nature of politics. And women have a harder time with that in general because it's not just attention to the way that they actually look, it's also in terms of the way that women are perceived out there, and also the way that the language within the parliament or within City Hall or within the provincial parliament and how they debate. Women don't see themselves participating in such a rough and tumble nature.
But part of, I mean, one would say in the arena of fighting, you have to learn how to take a punch and give a punch. That's part of what it is. It's to bring, I mean, the fight to the discussion, if you wish. Is it not a more, how would you say, a more palatable perspective to say that we want to encourage women to take up the fight? We want to encourage more women to put themselves forward as a viable option in politics and not to be afraid, and that many political forums are willing to make accommodations so that women, single mothers with kids and all the other things that come with that are more accessible to women in politics. That's your mission, right?
Yep. So here's the thing. We can change the perception of the rough and tumble nature of politics by getting more women involved. By getting more women involved, elected, working on campaigns, or even working in government, we can change that entire perception. We can change the way that the debate is happening. We can change the way that the language is used.
Laura, there's an event happening. It's called How to Hate Politics. Now that sounds like a negative, but it really is a positive. How does this play into women in politics in Peel?
So How to Hate Politics is an event being hosted by Women in Politics Peel on April 28th at 7 o'clock at Mississauga City Hall. Our group is here to support and celebrate the achievements of women in the Peel region, but as well as address the obstacles that women in politics face. The event, How to Hate Politics, will talk about ways to transform politics, and we will have women who are leading the way and overcoming the obstacles.
So when you say transform, how would you transform politics?
I think we need to hear from women,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we need to hear.
Now, transforming is a big word. I mean, if we always want to make politics work, but by transforming it, how are we looking?
I'm going to give you an example. So I work at Queen's Park, and many years ago, MPP Lisa MacLeod,
Yeah.
who is a progressive conservative, she actually brought forward and dared to change the rules, and the rules behind the hours and sitting hours
Right.
in the Parliament, and how long we sit for, and the evening sittings. Now that was very pivotal because, again, this is about changing the rules given it's 2016. In order to get more women elected, or in order to get more women to think about being in politics, we have to make sure that there's an environment for more women to get involved. So in this event, we're going to talk about different policies that we could bring forward, whether that's at City Hall, provincial, or federal, to make sure that women feel more comfortable to give up or to consider politics as part of their lifestyle.
So, Rowena, in your group, you've got municipal mayors, you've got representatives from the provincial government, and you've got successful women in business. That's an excellent recipe to try and get that accomplished, is it not?
Yeah, it is, absolutely. The more women actually see role models like that in politics, the more women are going to get involved. The problem is that because so let's take a look at this. Even though the cabinet is represented by 50% women, gender parity, that's amazing for us.
Yeah.
The reality is, at the Parliament Hill, we only still have, out of all elected officials, 26% elected women.
So with just about 2 minutes left, you work with Andrea Horwath. She is the representative, or the leader, I should say, of the New Democratic Party. How do you see her as a role model? Does that play into a little bit about what your motion is here?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm a single mom, and Andrea Horwath is a single mom.
Yeah.
And that, to me, speaks volumes. Being in politics as a woman is incredibly difficult. There's a lot of sacrifices, there are a lot of challenges. But when you see a woman like Andrea Horwath, despite those challenges, breaking through and becoming the leader of the Ontario NDP, that is very inspiring to women. We need to see more of that.
So how would you speak to a young lady who is out there now looking at you after meeting a man and now Laura and yourself, and saying, these ladies have got it together? What would you say to that woman to encourage her to step forward and say that she wants to be involved in politics? Because she's got something to say out there.
Yeah, and it's not even just about those women who are even considering politics. It's those women who aren't even, it's not even on their radar.
Right.
Sometimes the most amazing elected official or candidate is the person that doesn't even consider politics. I mean, part of the rough and tumble, part of people not seeing themselves in politics, sometimes those people make the best candidates.
But more important is that burning issue that lady has that's important to her is what she can bring forward.
That's
so
right.
Just under a minute left. I want to give you an opportunity to talk to the folks at home and how they can get in contact with you, and that budding next Premier of Ontario, Miss So-and-so on the other side, how she can get in contact with you.
Wonderful. Laura, I'm going to do that.
You can reach out to us on our Facebook group, Women in Politics Peel. We will have a How to Hate Politics event group on Facebook as well, and you can reach us at womeninpoliticspeel@gmail.com.
Perfect. Is there one thing, just under 30 seconds, is there one issue that you think women should be more concerned of right now in politics?
I think that women should not be complacent in thinking that just because we have 50% gender parity in cabinet and just because there's been some progress in women in politics, they shouldn't give up on the issue.
Rowena Santos and Laura Robinson. Also thank you to Amand Gill and to Ms. Bonnie Crombie. My name is Michael Charbon. You've been watching Brampton Focus, talking about women in politics, and more importantly, women in politics in Peel. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.